What are we up to today? Let's see if we can make something decent out of this mess. Welcome to 3D Accuracy, where I'll talk about 3D printing, 3D product design, and 3D injection and die-cast mold design. Okay, picking up from where we left off last time. It's been a couple of weeks since I've been out here, but that doesn't mean I haven't been doing things. I've kind of have a plan, a game plan, what I want to do with this electric box. Now, what I did was I made a sketch. I made a sketch of the box with all the circuit breakers and what machines are going to be connected to each circuit breaker, so I know what I'm working with. What I've done is I found out I can get those little circuit breakers that are actually doubles, so instead of one like this, there's actually two small ones next to each other, a double breaker, but it's not like one of these. It's not a big one like one of these, where you've got two breakers tied together so that you can use it for 240 volts. But it's actually 120 volts on each side, but it takes up less space, see? So like if I put one of those here, then I can get an extra outlet. Oh, no, that's my two outlets under the workbench. But like next to it, I have one of the 3D printers connected to one side, and I have a spare outlet that's on a different circuit on the other side. So that looks like this. Let me show you what it ends up doing. See, so like as an example, for this box here, for this outlet, this side will be for the 3D printer on its own circuit, on its own breaker in the breaker box, and this side will be an individual, just extra outlets that I can use to plug things into as I need, but it's not on the same circuit as the printer. And I can do that with a 3-wire. See the 3-wire and a ground. You got your two hots, the red and the black. You got your neutral, which is the white, and the ground, which is the green. And it's shielded, so you can run it like this. But what you do is you connect one hot to one of the outlets on one side and the other one to the other outlet, and use the common ground and return neutral line, the white line. And that way you can get individual circuit breakers to control each side. So I'm doing that because it's efficient, and I like that idea. So anyway, I've got this all figured out for all the machines I have, and doing it this way with the double breaker box, the double breakers, there's a name for it. I can't think of it. It's on the tip of my tongue and I can't remember what it is, but it's a double breaker. It's a small double breaker. And so anyway, I'll gang those together, and then that way I have extra spaces for other equipment that I'm going to be bringing in here in the future. Now, I've also broken them down into sections. Like all these are one group of breakers that are in there now that feed everything along the wall. This group here is for the other 3D printers over here, the other machines, that's going to run up and over and all the way around the room down to those machines. So I know I have them in groups, and I know which way the wires are going to come out of the box and run. What I want to avoid is a situation where I've got cables running, I've got wires running, and I don't want to have them overlapping each other. I don't want a cable jumping over another cable because it just looks messy, and I don't know. I don't like the looks of it. Now, anyway, I've got a couple problems here. One, this line is for the air conditioner, and this is hot. I haven't turned the breaker off yet, but these are not connected to anything, okay? This is just going through the wire in the ground. So it hasn't been connected to the box yet. These are for the air conditioner the guy put in. He has 10 gauge wire running down through here, goes through, and that's the spool. Because we haven't cut it off yet, we don't know how much room we're gonna need, how much more wire we're gonna need to feed it through the wall to the condenser on the air conditioner. Now, the problem with that is, the manufacturer recommends 6 gauge wire between the box and the disconnect that's going to be outside. There will be a disconnect so you can shut the circuit off there, and then 8-gauge wire from the disconnect to the compressor that'll be outside, the other side of this wall. So this 10-gauge wire that runs here and up through this PVC pipe and into the box is absolutely useless. It's got to come out. So what I'm going to do is try to isolate these, and I know which one it is down here. It's easy to, figure out which one it is. Open that up and see if I can't pull that one set of wires back out of there and get that air conditioner out of there. And then what I'll need to do is use one of the punch outs here and run a separate dedicated line for the 6-gauge wire to go over to its proper position and then through the wall. So that I'll have to figure out later. I don't have the air conditioning unit here yet. I haven't purchased it because I know I want to get this mess sorted out before I get too many projects backed up. And I need to get these machines all hooked up and running, specifically that one and this one. So this one's okay. I do have it to the shop electricity now, so it's functional. I can use all of these are no problem, but I need to get this one up and going. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if I'm going to shut this breaker box down. I'm going to go out on the main and I'm going to turn it off so there's no electricity running in here. Disconnect the wires. I believe if the neutral here was connected in order, the way he put the breakers in, the top one should be for this set. The second one down should be for where the air conditioner breaker was going to go. And that's just an empty spot right now. I think it's the second one down. And the same with the neutrals, I think, or the grounds, I'm sorry, the grounds. These are the neutrals. These are the grounds. The ground, the second one down, I believe goes to the line with the air conditioner. So what I'm going to do is untangle this a little bit. So when I pull it, I can see whether I've got the correct ground line and neutral line to pull out. I don't want to have the wrong one. I turned off all the circuit breakers, and then I went outside to the main panel on the other side of the wall here, and I turned off the circuit breaker there to cut the power coming into the sub panel. Then I checked it with my voltmeter in several places to make sure that there is no electric coming to the sub panel now. So the box is dead. There's no electricity in there, so it's safe for me to get in there and start figuring out which wire goes where and see if I can pull this, what was the air conditioning wire, out of the pipe. I'm hopeful that I can straighten the wire out enough that it'll slip in between the other wires and pull it out. So now I got to straighten up the wires. I got to get these two out from this tangled mess. I want them sticking straight out the top. And then I'm going to straighten up the green wires, the ground wires, and the white wires. And then I'll tug on the cable down here once I loosen that clamp up, and I'll pull it and see which one of the white ones and which one of the green ones move that seem to be attached, or that would be attached to that cable, to that group. And then I'll disconnect those and straighten them out and pull those, see if I can pull those out of here. And then the other thing I have to do is this outlet was wired incorrectly. It's wired for 220 volts and it should be 110 volts. So I have to rework that one and make sure it's correct. And so I need to determine which one of the neutral wires is the one that goes to that box, because I need to reconnect the neutral and disconnect one of the hot wires, like the red one, and then I'll need to determine which one is the red one that goes to that. It should be this breaker here, this 30 amp breaker. That should be the wire. I'm sure it is, but I'll need to disconnect one. And I don't think I'll cut it off. I'll maybe just roll it up, tuck it in the corner, and then put a note in here what that is, so that in the future, if I come back and I need to rework the box, I know what I have. Because you know how that stuff is. You think you're going to remember everything and then you don't. So I'll probably put a note in there what that wire is for, which box it's going to, so that if I ever get different machines and I need to rewire and that needs to be a 240 volt outlet, I can make it a 240 volt outlet. Making some progress. Check this out. I managed to determine, of course I knew the red and the black wires, which one it was. I managed to determine which one of the white neutral wire and the green ground wire, which one was the correct one that was in that batch with the others. And so my wife came out and helped me. I straightened out the wires, and when I pulled on the other end, she told me which ones were moving. And they were the ones that I suspected, so that's good because it makes logical sense. It was the next wire down in line that went with this circuit breaker. I pulled it all out and have that out of the way. You can see all the wire there on the floor now that was in the pipe before. Straightened it out on the tip as best I could so it wouldn't give any resistance going down the way. And it took a bit of tugging, as you can see, because I pulled this whole thing over a little bit, but I can straighten that back out and fix it. That's not an issue. So anyway, that's good. So I got that out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rework this side corner. Okay, making some more good progress. Let me show you what I have so far. Well, look at that. Does that look different? Holy cow! What happened? I got all the ground wires tucked down nice and neat back there. I got all the neutral wires tucked down nice and neat. For this cluster of breakers, that's going to do exactly the same thing as that whole big long cluster that was up here before. So simplified things and opened up some more circuits, because the way it was going, the way the other guy was going with it, I wouldn't have room to do the other things I want to do in the future. So this takes care of it. A little while, I have to go to Lowe's. I have to get all these circuit breakers. I have to get all the circuit breakers for up here. I've got to get a set of circuit breakers for here and down here for some of the other machines that I want to run. So while I go there, I want to get a bunch of them. And I'm going to get 2 more rolls of this wire, because I've decided I'm not going to use the PVC pipe. I'm just going to run this metal clad wire just like it is, right straight out of the sub panel, up the wall and all the way over and around to the machines. I'm not going to mess with transitioning from PVC to bringing it outside the PVC and then having to strip all that wire that's in the PVC, you know, get the metal cladding off and pull it through the pipe. I'm like, well, what a mess. Unnecessary mess. So I've decided I'm just going to go the easy way and get this job done so that I can get the machine hooked up. And I also corrected this outlet because it was wired for 240 volts and it needs to be 120 volts. So I changed that, rewired it correctly, and then I also wrote a little note on a post-it note and I set it in the box so that later on, if I open this to do something in the future, it just reminds me that the red wire that's in there, which has been, I put one of those nuts on it, like this guy here, like this guy. There's a nut on the box, and there's one here in the sub panel, because we're not using that wire. But in the future, should I want to change that to a 240 volt outlet, all I got to do is change the receptacle and the circuit breaker. The red wire already runs all the way through, so I've got a red and a black right here, and you know, that can be altered if I need to do that. It's 8:45, In the evening, I just got back from Lowe's 15 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. I decided to go later after the sun started to go down because it was so hot today. I didn't want to go out in the heat. And then when I put the car in, in the shop, it just makes it so hot in here. So this time of evening, it cools down a little bit. I can leave the doors open and it doesn't get so hot in here. So tomorrow I can work. But anyway, let me show you what I got at Lowe's. I got a bunch of new circuit breakers. Look at that, the box is loading up. How's that, huh? I found the 40 amp one. I needed to run the phase converter. They had one of those, and they had a bunch of the, see how these are? The small ones? They're called tandems. There's two in every single position. So when I bring, the 4 wires with the 2 hots, I can split it. I can put one to one side and one to the other side, so like I put the black here and the red here, and that way on the outlets, on the receptacles, one side is on one circuit breaker, the other side is on another circuit breaker. So that way it doesn't overload the system as easily, and I can get more things in there. So I got to find a 35 amp breaker for this spot down here on the bottom. That's going to be for the air conditioner that's going to feed up through one of these little knockouts here. And but I got the rest of the 20 tandems. You can see I got a couple over here. I got a couple down here. I needed a couple of 15 tandems to put in there, but they didn't have any. They didn't have the 15 tandems and they didn't have the 35 amp. He said the 35 amp might be tough to find. So I've got to look around and see if I can grab one. And then the rest of these spaces for now are going to be empty. And I put these 2 breakers, even though they're going to eventually end up down on the bottom, I moved them up 2 positions because the panel, the other guy knocked out all the openings, except for, you see there's 2 on the bottom right down here on this side. So I don't want to open any more because there's going to be a void in here, and I'm going to have to put something in there to cover it over so that it's not exposed when I put it in there. This side I've got to break all the tabs out because I'm going to be loaded on that side. So anyway, and then eventually when I move into putting other equipment into these positions, then I'll move these 2 breakers down and break out the bottom tabs in that panel that goes on the front here. Little by little, we're getting there. Tomorrow's another day, and I have wire, and I can start putting in the wire to go to some of the other machines, get that ready, and I got to look online and see if I can order those couple of circuit breakers that I need. The air conditioner one, not critical. I have that right now because I don't have the air conditioner in here yet, but I want to get it on its way. And then the other 2 15 amp breakers, those I'd like to get in here because I want to run the wire. At the worst case scenario, I run the wire, I attach it to the box, I let it hanging inside, and then when I get the breakers, then I'll put the breakers in and attach the wires. But I have the wiring all done, which is really, that's the work. Slipping in the breakers and attaching the wires, pretty simple. As long as you get the right one in the right place so you don't blow something up, right? I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you're ever in need of 3D product design, 3D injection mold design, 3D die-cast mold design, or 3D printed prototypes or production parts, please feel free to contact me. You can find contact information in the video description. I look forward to hearing from you and to being of service to you. Thank you for watching. As always, I appreciate it. See you on 3D Accuracy's next video.